car. But that only means that Dorian likely won't make landfall in Florida, the fact that it's nearly stationary and losing a little bit of power. But it is bad news for the Grand Bahama Island, where it is still pounding. At least 5 people dead in the Bahamas.
The island of Grand Bahama is currently, most areas are right now underwater. People having to evacuate their homes. You know, other persons, rescue teams risking their lives to rescue people.
In the U.S., more than 2 million people from Florida to the Carolinas under evacuation orders. Fox's Jackie Heinrich tells us how it's looking in Jupiter, Florida.
6 miles down the road from here, sustained 47-mile-an-hour winds with gusts up to 58 miles an hour. So we are definitely feeling tropical storm force winds here in Jupiter now. Up until now, the greatest threat to this area has been the storm surge. I want to show you the surf behind me. It is just violent out there. This is a scene that has been deteriorating over the course of the evening and early morning. You've got 4 to 7 foot storm surge creeping into this area. We've lost a lot of beach. We've now been seeing some of these waves come right up to the very top of the shore.
And more states taking action. Virginia's governor now declaring a state of emergency for the southern part of his state. Dorian may reach that area by Thursday. America is listening to Fox News.
Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with a true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine. A bistro look that feels like home. Their menu features local and traditional flavors with a twist. From their famous Kelaguen Hapa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs. Mescla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mescla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mescla, a true taste of Guam.
Tragedy in California. That emergency mayday call captured by Broadcastify as a sudden fire erupted on a dive boat off the Southern California coast in the early morning hours on Monday. Dean Child says he knew that boat, the Conception, very well.
The island of Grand
Over 12 years I've been diving on that boat. It's a top-notch outfit. I can't believe that this happened to them.
The Coast Guard says it found 25 bodies. 9 are still missing. 5 of the 6 crew members survived. They were topside while everyone else was below asleep. Passengers said it was a scene of absolute chaos Monday night at Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey. Hundreds of passengers scrambling to get away from a gate after an attendant told them to evacuate. Investigators later determined there was no real threat. Travelers on this busy holiday day dropping their bags and running and fearing the worst. They eventually were able to get back on the planes. There is word that the gunman in the West Texas mass shooting contacted police and the FBI just before going on his rampage.
Police aren't being specific about a motive, but Odessa Police Chief Michael Gerke says the gunman's emotional state was escalated the day of the shooting after going to work.
It was there for a short time and was terminated.
After that, the shooter was stopped by troopers. That began his shooting spree with the AR-type weapon. Texas Governor Greg Abbott said earlier the gunman was not screened for that rifle. ATF agent John Wester says he did at one point try to get a weapon legally.
The NIC system did work. He did apply to get a gun. He was denied a gun.
Police are continuing to look at crime scenes in Odessa. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And actor-comedian Kevin Hart's going to be okay, his wife telling TMZ that after he was in a car accident over the weekend. I'm Carmen Roberts, and this is Fox News.
Hi, welcome to this Subway ad for the new ciabatta collection. How do you want it?
I'll take the slam poultry.
Sure. Italian ciabatta with mozzarella. When hunger reigns, you're my favorite umbrella. Tasty garlic steak and provolone? With you, my taste buds are never alone. Savory chicken pesto, you have my affection. For you complete the Ciabatta Collection. Thank you. That was the new Ciabatta Collection by Subway. Limited time only at participating restaurants.
Are you ready for some football? The Ray Gibson Show has got your NFL fix every Friday on Sports with Blake. Be a part of the action by going to yahoo.com's Fantasy Sports Pro Football Pick'em. Join League 3384 with the password Ray Gibson. Choose your team name and get your game on. Winners get a chance to win some awesome prizes that get you through the NFL season. The NFL Picks on the Ray Gibson Show is brought to you by Current Guam.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Good afternoon and welcome to Tall Tales for a Tuesday, September 3rd, 2019. I'm Daryl Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He's off island. He'll be back in 34 days. That's the countdown, 34 days. And we're here on a somewhat of a shortened week with a long weekend behind us, Labor Day weekend. Back in the saddle again. We've got Ray Gibson back on this same microphone in the morning. He was on this morning. Great to hear his perspective and his welcoming to the new day. And so, hey, you know, vacations work so well for us, don't they? And happy that he could get away. But now he's back. We've got him once again. So take advantage of that. We have an item for the Second Amendment part of the show. I was looking through to see, I wanted to find a story that wasn't real snarky. You know, snarky being a kind of a bad thing. And most of the stories were by the liberal media, and so the spin was really quite negative. Although, you know, of course, there are opinions that differ on this subject, but it just seemed that I wanted just a straightforward reporting on what was going on in Texas. Looser gun restrictions go into effect in Texas after deadly mass shootings, by Justin Wise for the weekly magazine for Capitol Hill for the employees of Congress. The publication is called The Hill, and it's not as snarky as the other stories. And so, and this was well. Let me go ahead and clue you in on this. A slate of new Texas laws that loosen regulations for firearms went into effect Sunday after a month in which the state experienced multiple mass shootings. The bills, which were passed during the 86th Texas legislature, ease restrictions surrounding access to guns on school grounds and churches, among other provisions. House Bill 1143 says that the Texas Education Code will be updated to, quote, prevent school districts from regulating the manner in which a licensed person's handgun, firearm, or ammunition is stored in their vehicle in a school parking area. Meanwhile, Senate Bill 535 clarifies that licensed handgun owners will be permitted to carry firearms in places of worship. Quote, we have learned many times over that there is no such thing as a gun-free zone. Those with evil intentions will violate the law and carry out their heinous acts no matter what. State Senator Donna Campbell, Republican, co-sponsor of the bill, said in a statement about it, CNN reported, quote, it makes no sense to disarm the good guys and leave law-abiding citizens defenseless where violent offenders break the law to do great harm. Other legislation loosens restrictions on how many armed school marshals a school district can appoint. House Bill 2363 makes it legal for some foster homes to store firearms and ammunition in a secure place. CNN noted that House Bill 302 also bars homeowners or landlords from preventing tenants from possessing, carrying, transporting, or storing a gun on their property. The National Rifle Association has praised the legislation as, quote, highly successful. Local ABC affiliate KSAT 12 reported. And then it talks about the recent events in West Texas and also El Paso, and that the shootings have led to calls from many Democratic lawmakers to reform the nation's gun laws. Now, these bills had been passed already. The Texas legislature meets in June, I believe so. It's not in this article, but in other articles I was reading through. They had passed these bills. They considered them and passed them earlier in the year. And they're just going into effect on Sunday, on the 1st of September, which is the effective date of these bills that were passed. There was also a very long, good article about what kinds of changes were made. But it was a bit too long to bring into the show today. But if you're interested, this is the story that Texas actually loosened its gun laws before these shootings happened. I also should remind you is that Texas was also the site of a mass shooting in a church where no one was armed. Nobody brought their guns to church, and it took someone who was living nearby to run and get his gun and go after the shooter. And you may remember this. I guess it happened about, 8 months ago or a year ago. And so that is something that's also on the minds of the Texas lawmakers. It's not the more highly publicized shootings in El Paso and Dayton, and then the one in West Texas today, this over the weekend. So just to sort of bring you up to date on that. And so it's time for Zami Katni. And we've got, of course, a long weekend, and so we've got quite a few things to say about what's going on, opinion pages for the last several days. And one that really gets me here is, we had the one today for Guam Daily Post, and so we'll be bringing that to you. And the title of that is, "We Need to Fix More of Our Poorly Maintained Roads and Highways." In the Pacific Daily News, the editorial today is Title 10 Gag Rule, which is reprinted from the Philadelphia Inquirer, and it's almost not relevant here. It's a loss of federal funds for mentioning or referring abortion as a health care option. I'm not going to be reading that one, okay? Just wanted to mention it and set it aside. There is a USA Today editorial that appeared on Saturday in the PDN, August 31st, on corporate liability, and it's a story that I wanted to get to last week, and it's subtitled "Protect Capitalism from Capitalists." And this is an ongoing discussion here on Tall Tales. The tug of war between the socialists and the capitalists, sort of as shorthand for Republicans and Democrats, or the white hats and the black hats, or that sort of discussion. So actually, this, more in keeping with the way that I've been doing the show, this sort of cuts diagonally across the issue. Also, the Guam Daily Post yesterday put out a thank you to Guam workers. I'm going to hold this because I really want to talk more about what we have here for a wage disparity. And this is part of a larger story, so I'm going to hold this for another day. So, and then we have a column which is just superb, and this is it's a That's Life column by Helen Middlebrook, where yesterday in the Guam Daily Post she wrote, "Fixing Guam takes individual responsibility." And so let's get to these right now. Starting out with, we need to fix more of our poorly maintained roads and highways. And so the editors over at the Guam Daily Post write, "Motorists have dreaded passing through the tri-intersection that connects routes 10, 16, and 8 for more than a year now, if not longer. The intersection's asphalt has become wavy. Driving through this area during rush hour is a long-standing concern, particularly to those who have an older car and don't have the budget to repair the wear and tear caused by Guam's poor roads. We thank the Guam Department of Public Works for doing the work and the federal government for providing the money to fix this crucial path to many residents who go to the University of Guam, Guam Community College, George Washington High School, and Father Duenas Memorial School. The tri-intersection is also a key path for residents from Mingila, Chalampago, and Jona, and other more remote villages in the south who must drive to and from Dedido and other northern areas. Thanks to $588,270 in federal funds, DPW has finally begun to tackle this repair job. We also appreciate DPW's decision to let the work on the project proceed only on weekends, so weekday work and school commuters won't be as inconvenienced." DPW Deputy Director Jesse Garcia said the work at the tri-intersection will continue over 14 weekends as local contractors resurface the intersection. The work is being done slowly on Saturdays and Sundays, Barrigada Mayor June Blas said. "And we just ask for everyone's patience and that they follow the signs and the instructions of the contractors who are out there directing traffic around the work." Work is also being completed on Route 8 on a traffic light that will control traffic to the turn to BP Carbolito Elementary School and San Vicente School in Barrigada, the mayor said. "We're glad DPW has started paying more attention to one of its core responsibilities. We urge the department to also look at fixing the uneven road and peeled-off patches of asphalt at the ITC intersection in Tamuning. That area is as busy as, if not busier than, the tri-intersection. We hope DPW will also look at opening up at least one more lane each at morning and afternoon rush hours at highway choke points on weekend. An example of this is the Airport Road traffic congestion by the Home Depot and the heavy traffic heading north from the Tidzin Parkway. The government of Guam was supposed to further develop another phase of Tidzin Parkway to decongest the rush hour traffic jam on Airport Road. This much delayed next phase of Tidzin Parkway should get started soon. This congestion isn't just about motorists getting stuck in traffic on their way to and from work, school, and other matters. It's also about safety. If something very serious happens in the Airport Road area or on Marine Corps Drive in Tamuning, emergency first responders will get stuck in the traffic jam, and the critical moments wasted could mean the difference between life and death. That's the editorial today from the Guam Daily Post. We need to fix more of our poorly maintained roads and highways. There's a companion article that appears on page 5 of, when was that? Yeah, also in today's paper on page 5. So you could read about the intersection work on page 5 and then go to the editorial on page 18 that amplifies this. I am, again, going to be somewhat stingy about this. It's not poorly maintained. Okay, if you go back and you take a look at the article on page 5, what the writers failed to point out or take into consideration is Hawaiian Rock wasn't the initial contractor of the 2-year tri-intersection project that was completed in 2012 and celebrated with a July ribbon-cutting ceremony. It was supposed to last decades. However, just a few years later, in spots leading to one of the island's busiest intersections, and on the intersection itself, the surface asphalt rippled and spots were peeled away altogether, exposing the underlying concrete. As officials discussed reconstruction with the Federal Highway Administration, DPW, and contractors, there was some delay as they debated the proper formula for the deformed asphalt known as the, quote, friction course. They later explained that the root cause of the problem is not with the friction course, but with the underlying concrete foundation. The initial contractor didn't cut grooves in the concrete deep enough to allow the friction course to hang on, which is why, as more cars and heavier trucks traveled over the asphalt, it started peeling. Now, that's the point of the repair. It's not poorly maintained, as the title says. And they're the ones writing the title. I mean, it's not like I turned in the article and they stuck a title on it for me that I wasn't consulted in. But it's not that they were poorly maintained. It's that they were poorly inspected by DPW. DPW is the construction manager of the project. And how much is it? How much does it benefit the contractor if he doesn't have to go out and slice grooves in the cement? I don't know. But I know I've seen the machines that do it. They're pretty amazing machines. It's almost like a compactor, roller compactor, but instead of having a compactor, it has a wheel that cuts grooves in the cement, turns the stuff into sand, back into its original sand component, and leaves grooves in the surface. And when you lay the material on top of it, it won't slide off. It'll stay put. And if the editorial writers had just read the article from page 5, they might have mentioned this in the editorial, that the reason that the road is coming loose is because it wasn't properly inspected by DPW when they accepted the work, stage by stage. And we're lucky that we don't have to pay that out of local funds. We're lucky that the $588,000 to redo the friction course came from federal funds. But this is not only a waste of time and energy, it's a waste of money. That $588,000 could have gone to a different road to work on. And they take time in the editorial to point out that there should be other roads being opened up for larger capacity. And they don't bother to consider that one of the ways that Public Works saves money on a project is to not bother to put shoulders in. If they put shoulders on, which basically are prepared with base course and they're crowned, so the water will run off completely, and they are sealed so that the base course, the coral underlay that's compacted, doesn't get washed away in the rain. It's rated to a certain amount of per axle weight, so that it won't come apart when it's driven on. But if we had shoulders built with our roads, then there would be a place for cars to pull over and allow emergency vehicles through. But why is it that I have to be saying this? Why doesn't anyone else know this? I'm not a highway engineer, but it looks really obvious to me when I drive up and down the roads. There are some roads that have really good shoulders, And no matter how much traffic is on that road, emergency vehicles can get through. And they don't flood. Unless, of course, they just let the drainage on the side of the road fill up with debris. Let the culverts fill up. And of course, then the water will run over the road. But those shoulders save the main traveled portion of the road, lasts much longer. So there's two areas. And we've got people working at DPW in highway engineering, highway safety. And these are full-time, multiple-person offices with qualified professionals. And we have oodles of money coming from the federal government to work on our roads. And we still don't see progress on the roads. In design, in construction, or in inspection when they are built. And we're still talking about the same gang of people over at DPW right across the street here from the studio. And I just keep expecting with every change of administration that somebody's going to go over there and require them to do a complete, thorough, professional job that meets or exceeds the specifications of their job and written up in the contract with the contractor. And I really think it should be investigated. I thought that with Parsons Brinkerhoff coming in as to oversee the spending of highway funds, federal highway funds, that they would have gotten to the bottom of this. Because when you drive down the road, just look at the imperfections that were allowed to remain when the roads were constructed. And, what do we have to do to get better performance out of this particular area of government of Guam? Again, I'm not a highway engineer. I'm not an inspector. But I sure do hit those patches of road when I drive through. I watch them deteriorate way before their time. And then I read about it in the paper about how much money is being spent to fix something that was new, that's not even 10 years old. And it's happened over and over and over and over again. How about this one? It goes along with it. In yesterday's post on page 5, a little blurb here. Fiberglass material remains exposed on railings along the fishing platform near Paseo de Susana Park in Hagatna, as it has for several months. Construction on the platform began in 2015 and is being completed in phases. Quote, "It's still not complete. The platform still has another segment to be added onto it." Department of Agriculture Director Chelsea Munya-Brecht said on Friday. She said the contractor did paint over the fiberglass material on the post, quote, "but it eventually flaked off." Quote, "We put notices up every couple of feet, so you can't miss it, and you see it says, 'Don't lean on the railings.'" Quote, "We are waiting on purchase orders for paint. We will do it immediately as soon as the paint arrives," Munya-Brecht said. She said the department expects to finish the project, quote, "within a couple of weeks." Oh, okay, so it started in 2015, being completed in phases, and it's going to be completed in a couple of weeks. Exposure to fiberglass materials is known to cause irritation to the skin or eyes and possibly to the throat and lungs if inhaled. Anyone who's ever worked with fiberglass knows that, and that's why it is always coated. But what did they do? Order the wrong paint? Is this a specification that is so specialized that it's difficult? Or did they send it to GSA and they said, "Oh no, we don't need to use an epoxy paint, or we don't have to use this marine coating that goes normally," is a gel coat, right? That goes on the bottom of boats or sides of boats, roofs of boats. No, we don't need to do that. We're wasting money and time, and we're not even getting use of the facilities because they're taking 4 years to get a railing painted and done. Aye. It's 4:30, and time to take a break here, and we'll come right back with more Tall Tales.
We understand what matters to you because at Docomo Pacific, we're a family too. With the Now Family program, mom, dad, and kids stay connected on the latest devices the whole family can enjoy. For just $155 a month, get 3 lines with 30 gigs of 4G LTE data each, and endless use of your favorite apps without affecting your monthly data bucket. Add more, get more, save more. Docomo Pacific, better together. Some conditions apply.
Sing, dance, and jive with the feel-good jukebox musical Mamma Mia. Presented by World Theater Productions, featuring international guest artists, YouTube sensation AJ Raphael.
Hop a day, this is AJ Raphael.
And Dee Dee Magno Hall from Steven Universe.
Hop a day, this is Dee Dee Magno Hall.
Come and see us at the UOG Cabo Fieldhouse on September 6, 7, and 8.
Get your tickets now at WTPGuam.com. Enhance the theater experience.
Tickets are also available at GNC and 76 Circle K.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is also brought to you by American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
And now, back to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the one radio show politicians don't want you to listen to. Call now, 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, sitting in for the vacationing Bob Klitzkie, here's Daryl Taggarty.
Absolutely. Welcome back to Tall Tales. Taking a look at our friends on Facebook Live watching us. I've got, Kazendo realizes that I've got a haircut. I keep forgetting. I actually forgot to put some product in there to keep it all like exactly so. But yes, I am shorn. If I had let it go for another week, it would have gone another 2 months because I just would have gotten really used to the big mane. And so, thank you, Kaz, for reminding me, And then Eddie Cruz says, the intersection is poorly designed. That's another thing. Besides that, they had a problem way back when they were building the intersection because it had so many pipes underneath it that were not mapped out. You remember it was the outgoing director of waterworks spent his last 8 days in the job before the change from the Camacho to the Calvo administration. He spent his last 8 days or working days on the job, going down in those trenches at the intersection to help the people that were digging them out figure out where those pipes were going and who they belonged to. It was amazing. This is how far back this goes. 2010, right? The elections in 2010. And then Eddie says you are incorrect in what it used to make, in what is used to make grooves on the concrete portion of the roadway intersection base. Actually, Eddie, I was thinking about the tool they were using up there on Marine Drive in Jigo. When they recently did the resurfacing of Marine Drive of all those areas, they were stripping off the friction course, and then they were running a machine over that grooved the cement. And it was sort of 4 feet wide or so, and it just made a heck of a racket. And then it had a conveyor belt, and the spoils were going into a dump truck. And they grooved all of that down before they laid the course. So that's kind of what I was talking about. We have a caller on line 1. I'll get right to you. And then he says, you are referring to a profiler or mill used to grinding off layers of roadway. A different machine makes the grooves. Oh, okay. Okay, I told you I'm not a road engineer, and Eddie, you would know. So thank you for pointing this out. But yeah, there's a machine that cuts the grooves into the cement. That they laid cement down there so that it was gonna be the thing that you can land airplanes on this stuff. But you can't get the friction course to stick to it if you do land a plane on it, if you don't put the grooves in, right? And then Eddie says, Federal money can only be used for road construction and not highway maintenance. The Federal Highway Administration money used for the tri-intersection is used to correct the poor construction. Yeah, and it could have been used for highway construction like Epow Road or something, right? We're losing money by using our money to make up for bad construction before. And I'll tell you, if DPW picked it up the first time, if they noticed it the first time that the box hadn't been checked off, or maybe somebody checked it off, and the contractor got paid and they didn't have to worry about doing the work. What's that called? WSP is a current engineering consultant for DPW highway projects. So if WSP is the engineering consultant, who do they depend on to go out there and inspect and accept the work? Are they the ones, or do they use the inspectors at Public Works? Who for the government signed off? Whether it's delegated or not. And see a couple of folks who are tuning in just to see how my hair looks. Yeah. But thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you're on radio or you're on Facebook Live or on YouTube Live, I'm really happy to have you here with us. And let's go to that caller on line 1. Welcome to Tall Tales.
Hello?
Half a day.
Half a day. Hey.
Yes.
Okay, so online. Anyhow, I just wanted to call and make a comment as well, because I'm glad that somebody is actually bringing up an issue that's been, really, it's a huge peeve for me, and that's the roads and their conditions. And you're right, money being spent and just being wasted. When a one-time job could fix the problem and they can save money in the long run. But you're right, these roads are horrible, and they're all breaking before their time. And I don't know who's supposed to be inspecting these roads, because I'm not a road engineer such as yourself. But I'm glad that somebody's addressing these issues and bringing this to the forefront, because every time I drive by these intersections, I see that none of them are being maintained, and there's enough gravel at each intersection to build another skyscraper. And I'm being funny there, but I'm glad you're bringing this to the front.
Oh, I was thinking about trying to go out there with a shovel in my pickup truck, because why would I have to go buy gravel? I can just go and shovel it off the side of the road, because it's just coming apart, and it's already the right size I need for my project at home.
Exactly. And I don't know. I call constantly, and I just bring it to the attention of like the mayors and the folks, DPW, to include DPW. I brought it to their attention, and it seems that there's a lot of yeah, yes, but none of it is being done. I see it the next day, the next month, the next year. A lot of these people don't realize that when vehicles are going over these loose pieces of gravel that's on the road, it acts as a sandpaper, coupled with the friction of the vehicle tires going over it, and therefore it's scraping up all of the asphalt on the road and just making it worse and worse.
Yes.
But these guys, hey, I'm no professional at road inspections, but you're right. I've seen roads in the States torn apart in a week and completed within a week, and they're actually putting their money, in the best spending possible for the cities and the little towns that are there, because they have machinery that tear up the gravel, reuse it, repurpose it, and then retill it so that it's covered in this blacktop, and then it's respread over the road. I don't know how hard that is for these people to comprehend, but it seems that a lot of this money is being flushed down the drain, and these guys are doing nothing but going out and with a pickup truck and mix that's not even hot and stuffing it in these holes and then tapping it down and
cold mix.
Okay, we repaired it. We repaired it. Really, that's not a repair. That's called a half. But you know what?
Yes.
And it just pisses me off, because I'm not an engineer, but I look at this logically and I say this is what it takes to fix it. And I've traveled and I've seen these people get this work done, but then we have these so-called professionals that are out here that are not doing the job that they're being paid to do, i.e. the inspections previous to completion.
Yes.
They're not doing that. And you know what? It it's such a sore spot for me because I see like, for example, in Saipan, man, if you've driven in the roads in Saipan, you see that these guys actually, they'll get out there, tear a road apart and redo it. You know, I don't know. It's like in comparison, we're almost like a third world country with our roads.
You know, you don't even have to go as far as Saipan to see it done right. If you look at any of the federal projects, I'm not talking about the federal money. I'm talking about where the federal, where NAVFAC is overseeing the construction. So you had the runways at Anderson have been redone. And these are by the same companies that are working on our roads on the civilian side. But they redid the Anderson runways. They redid one of the runways at Northwest Field. They put roads, they're rebuilding Route 3A going out to Northwest Field. They're rebuilding Route 3. I think that's a DPW project, but I think NAVFAC has a hand in that one too. Because I don't see GovGuam inspectors out there, and I don't see the same kind of sort of, you know, that the local way of flagging and putting cones and putting the notices. No, it's not like that. It's done in a much more systematic and straightforward manner for all of the work that's being done. And so we don't have to go that far. You know, can you imagine if the companies that were building that were working on the roads and allowed to get away with some of the stuff on the roads were doing something like working on the runway at Tidzin? You know, the first plane that would land would tear it up.
I'll tell you right now, all I can say is that they're doing a very, very piss poor job at the maintenance. This is where we fail all the time. It's maintenance. They can fix it up and make it look pretty, maybe not done the right way, but maintenance is key. You can have the crappiest road, but if it's maintained properly, it'll last a pretty long time.
But these are apples and oranges. That's apples and oranges. If you build it right, you shouldn't have to do anything but cut the grass on the side and maintain the drainage. If it comes apart, if it's coming apart and you get the gravel, then the gravel is going to sit on the edges, and the grass is going to start to grow. And if you don't trim that stuff out, then the water won't come off the road. It stays on the side of the road or stays in the road. And they're not out there on rainy days to see where the ponding is.
No. They expect you as a citizen to get out there with your shovel and your pickaxe.
You know, I almost did that. I almost did that last week.
I have been doing it for the longest time already, and I'm almost sick to my eyeballs about what I'm doing for them, what I'm doing for them, and they should be doing this. All these culverts that are clogged. I mean, I've dug dead animal entrails out of those culverts, and these are outdated culverts. You know, they're ditches. We don't do ditches anymore in this day and age in a lot of cases. Storm drainages, you know?
Yes.
With storm drainages, with blockages, so that debris doesn't go down into it. But you know what I see out here? They're fine if all this grass and muck and trash and everything else settles on top of that drainage hole. They don't care. They just keep going by. I can complain until I'm blue in the face. Until ultimately I get out there with my family members and we clean this thing out. And I'm trying really hard not to cuss because I'm so upset at this.
Well,
but
thank you.
Guys, man, I'm telling you, in closing, I'm glad you're bringing this to the front, and I hope that people are listening to this, because if they think that this is a laughy situation, they should see what it's going to cost them in the long run, knowing that it's going to cost more money to repair something that should have been maintained and perhaps maybe save them a lot of money. And you're right. And take that money and throw it into another inner-street area that looks like a road in Beirut somewhere.
Thank you. Yes, like Ipao Road. You know, we've been promised that for how many years? We've been promised that road's going to be worked on, and here it is. I read in the paper that $588,000 of construction money is going to the tri-intersection to redo something that's only 7 years old, and that there should be either contractors that are disbarred, you know, delisted from being eligible for projects. There should be people who are responsible for signing off on projects. if it's too late if it's statute of limitations on the fraudulently certifying, then just at least bring it up and say we can't get this guy, but we're going to watch every other guy that signs his name on these inspection forms here on out.
They should be held accountable for these mishaps, because they're I don't like to assume, right? But I wonder what happens to a lot of this money. You can appropriate a project and have all this money set in place to complete these projects, but are we filling in the concrete blocks with mud and not cement? I mean, that seems to be the impression that a lot of people are getting. Where we're saying that these road projects are set up and they're going to be done right, but you're right. There's probably no real inspection from tear up to finalization of the project.
I was told
everything is coming apart.
I was told this was explained to me some years back when I was discussing this with somebody who was in engineering about the stretch of road from East Agana to Tamuning. And you know how those in the middle lane, when you're coming north, the manhole covers for the sewage line are all about 2 inches or 3 inches low, and you just hit them, thump thump, thump thump, thump thump. Okay, now that was built in '85 or so, and as soon as it was done, we were wondering, why is it off? Why is this road off? And this is how it was explained to me. If the contractor knows how many dump truck loads of coral is needed to bring something to grade, and they know how much compaction. After the compaction, they know what they're going to get for the grade, and they know that they have to measure by using a transit, right, like survey, to know if they've got the elevation right, so that those culvert boxes that they put underneath, that it meets, so the manhole is going to meet when they put the final course down, the friction course down. On the top, it'll be flush. But just imagine if you don't have to put 200 truckloads in of coral, and they don't compact it exactly so that it sort of fluffs up a little bit, or they put too much down and they don't go back and scrape it off. And they didn't. So that's how many. Okay, first off, they could short you the contractor could short you 200 loads of coral at $300 a load. If you've put too much coral, or it's fluffed up high because you didn't compact it properly to begin with, so it's too high and you don't go back and scrape it off, how much did you save by not scraping it off and then recompacting so that it would be to grade? Okay, just those two could be a savings to the contractor of $250,000. That's the kind of scale of the problem that we've got here, because we're talking about major money. If you didn't have to go through those roads after the concrete was laid down, and you saw that when it was being built, you saw how rough it looked. And so to us, it's like, oh yeah, sure, it looks really rough, and so it should stick. But and they were very fast to lay the friction course down, and they did leave it really rough. But if the specification really called for not making it rough, but make it smooth, and then go along with a machine that was going to cut grooves in it uniformly. Well, if they skipped those two steps, they didn't smooth it, and then they didn't cut it. And if you don't do those two things, how much money did you save? And perhaps, how much money do you have available for political contributions?
Man, that's what I'm talking about. A lot of these half-butt issues, right, going on here, because people don't complain enough about what it is that's going on. So they figure that they can go ahead and bypass that whole subject because nobody's saying anything about it. That's why I can appreciate you bringing this to the front and putting it to the people and letting them perhaps come out in the other talk shows and make mention about how their road has looked like something that's been bombarded for the last 15, 20 years. It's just crap on top of crap.
Yeah, and this is why, another reason why I take the newspaper to task, because if they don't get it right, then they perpetuate the misunderstanding on the part of the public, and the public doesn't expect any better.
Yep. No, you're right.
It's a miseducation of the public by the press, and that is something that deserves to be called out. You know, as much as I love the Guam Daily Post, and I do, I think they do a great job. When they don't, it just contributes to the ignorance of people and the confusion, and it leaves this gap where hundreds of thousands of dollars are just wasted having to redo projects that instead of doing the new project.
I went to this tire shop, and one of the guys, I won't mention which tire shop, but he was jokingly saying, "Oh, we love these broken roads and all of these things on the roads because these tires get destroyed, and they come over here and they give us business, right?" And I sat back and I started thinking about it. I said, there may be a tit for tat here in that comment, in that statement, but I'm not going to take it lightly, because that just may be something that was discussed with them in conversation, saying that the reason why they keep the roads all rutted and nasty because it brings them business. And to me, that's not a joking matter, because I don't appreciate having to spend $400 for a tire after it's been ripped open by a rutted out road.
Yeah, and we shouldn't have to all have off-road tires. Thank you so much for the call this afternoon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's go to that break, Real Joe, and we'll be right back with more Tall Tales.
We can't buy this house.
What?
It has 4 bathrooms. Just think of all the bathtub rings, water spots, and stains, plus the cleaning products I'll have to buy.
Didn't I tell you? The house comes with a non-electric Connecticut water treatment system. We'll have clean, soft water throughout the house, protect the water-using appliances, keep the tub, showers, and sinks looking like new, and help our skin, hair, and clothes look and feel great, too. The house even includes a Connecticut drinking water system.
A Connecticut system in the house? We'll take it.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
Hulu is all your TV in one place, plus more. Watch thousands of hit shows, movies, and award-winning Hulu originals for only $5.99 per month. It's TV without the cable contract and the freedom of on-demand streaming. Get current network shows from ABC, CBS, NBC, and Fox, and binge-watch every season of your favorite cable shows. Premium Hulu viewing is brought to you by Proline Automotive and AB Sports, Guam's store for Nike. To advertise on Hulu, call Choice Digital at 989-0042.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Absolutely. And welcome back to Tall Tales. We're not telling tall tales this afternoon. I guess I should probably dig up a few tall tales and see if I can zing them past the public, but you know, there's so much reality. You know, it's if we have all this stuff that we can talk about just in the course of things, you know, why do we need, you know, fiction? Fact is stranger than fiction. So no star for the Guam Daily Post today for its incomplete work on the editorial side. And we'll get to this corporate liability in a moment. There's something I really want to get into at this point. And it's Helen Middlebrook. Oh, wait, before I do that, Eddie Cruz is still with us on Facebook Live, and he says, Daryl, you are correct on your assumption. It's design and construction management and not the capabilities of the contractor. Hawaiian Rock Products is the only highway paving company right now and has built roadways and runways inside and outside the bases. They used contracted highway consultant engineers like WSP. I'm assuming that they means DPW. But the responsibility is still DPW's to make sure that the specifications are met because they're signing off on the highway grant. The responsibility, the ones who are speaking for us, the public, is DPW. And when they are not right on top of it and willing to call out the contractor for skipping a stage, if they're not willing to do that, then they're not working for us. They're working for somebody else. And that they're not being paid to work for someone else. that somebody else is not paying them. We're paying them. So I just had to add that on there. Aye. And Roxanne Lee says, I would love to have that road, EPOW, fixed or widened. Yeah, EPOW Road. How much new construction has been new homes built on EPOW Road, predicated on improving that road and widening it? How many tourists walk up and down that road because there's a hotel on it? 2 hotels on EPOW Road. And it's hazardous as can be. And there's no drainage. And it's bumpy. And it's okay, we deal with it. It's a major route between Marine Drive and the Hilton, the San Vitores Road at the Hilton intersection. So you don't have to go up Chalon San Antonio or Governor Carlos Camacho Road, Camp Watkins Road, or go all the way up to the Kmart intersection and come down by JFK. Okay? Go up EPOW Road. But it's just substandard. It's the same 2 lanes that were there before Typhoon Karen, when the Universal Theater was there, the drive-in. It's the same 2 lanes. Gee. Helen Middlebrook wrote on yesterday's Guam Daily Post, her column, That's Life, says, fixing Guam takes individual responsibility. I think she should have the last word this hour before we take our top of the hour break and listen to Fox News and listen in on and take a look at our thrilling halftime show. After 20 years on Guam, my husband Mike has reached the retirement age. We have been discussing where we could possibly retire. The kids are scattered. We have 3, with a total of 3 grandchildren in the Milwaukee area. We have 1 with 2 grandchildren in Virginia Beach. We have 1 with 1 grandchild in the Florida Panhandle. And we have 1 somewhere in Arkansas. One of them recently asked about our return. Quote, I don't know, I said. Quote, it doesn't seem safe anywhere in the States. In recent months, there have been shootings in El Paso, Dayton, and at a garlic festival in Gilroy, California. Earlier this year, there was another at a municipal building in Virginia Beach. If you aren't safe in a place like Gilroy, California, where are you safe? Quote, I may rethink returning, I told her. Quote, Guam is safer. But is it? It's nearly impossible to go a day without reading about a theft at gunpoint, a machete attack, an aggravated assault, or a sexual assault. Add to that headlines involving drugs and drug-related crimes committed by those on pretrial release, and stories about theft and corruption, and you will conclude that Guam is only beautiful on the surface. Even this is debatable if you consider palm trees ravaged by rhino beetles, contaminated beaches, and illegal dumping. What is happening to our island home? I really can't answer that question. I don't know that anyone can. Government mismanagement is perennial, so it likely doesn't contribute to societal degradation any more now than it did before. I think the state of the island is most deeply rooted. Let me read that again. I think the state of the island is most deeply rooted in the state of our families. Although we like to portray our families as strong and foundational, many are hurting. The foundations are crumbling. And if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? The solution will not be found in more government involvement. I'll finish this after the top of the hour. Right? I'll come back in about 6 or 7 minutes, and we'll do it all again. And I'll finish up with the point that Helen Middlebrook is getting to in her article, Fixing Guam Takes Individual Responsibility. Right now it's 4:59. Time for Fox News here on The Point, and our thrilling halftime show will be back after that with another hour of Tall Tales.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM, and 104.3 HD3.
Weaker, but at a standstill. I'm Carmen Roberts, Fox News.
To do. If we have to bug out, we're going.
Bad man in Cocoa Beach, Florida, as Hurricane Dorian nearly stalls over the Bahamas after slamming it as a Category 5 on Sunday with 185-mile-an-hour winds. The latest check on the storm shows winds are down to 120 miles an hour, making it a Category 3. Dorian's devastation of the Grand Bahama Island giving people in Florida pause.
And it's really making them think twice about writing this storm off.
We were fortunate enough that we can leave. You know, they can't. They're stuck on an island. So just wish them the best and pray for them.
And that's one of the things these people here, especially in these low-lying areas, they have an escape route. They won't close the causeways during a storm. They'll only close them after to check this structural integrity. So many of the people here in town, they have their hurricane shutters up. They've got all their supplies in place, but they're not going to leave until they absolutely have to. And they think they can ride this one out, at least for now.
Fox's Jeff Paul in Cocoa Beach. Dorian's expected to stay off the U.S. shore at least for a while. By Wednesday at 8 p.m.
You're beginning to watch us run up the coast, staying a Category 3 storm, moving a little bit faster. By Wednesday, you're up around the state line. And then getting into Thursday, you see this cone of uncertainty drift closer and closer to the coast. We stay off the coast entirely across Florida. You get up into the Carolinas, South Carolina, North Carolina, and you begin to get closer to the coast, and that could mean more damages.
Fox meteorologist Adam Klotz. Mandatory evacuation orders issued for the coastal areas from Florida to the Carolinas. Gunfire at the Minnesota State Fair in St. Paul last night. Police say at least 4 people were shot, 1 fatally as the fair wrapped up. A pedestrian crash also happened around the same time. And Wall Street was closed yesterday for the Labor Day holiday. Dow futures plummeting down 237 points, indicating a sell-off at the open. America's listening to Fox News.
Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro brings you island hospitality with a true taste of modern Chamorro cuisine. A bistro look that feels like home. Their menu features local and traditional flavors with a twist. From their famous Calaguan Hapa to fresh ahi poke salad and their award-winning barbecue ribs. Mezcla takes your favorite local dishes and serves them with extra flair that you'll only find at Mezcla Chamorro Fusion Bistro. Stop by their newest location in the Grand Plaza Hotel in Tumon. For reservations, call 969-2652. Mezcla, a true taste of Guam.
Connecticut water treatment customers don't keep coming back. They're satisfied the first time. That's right. Connecticut non-electric water treatment systems take care of your water problems, and you won't need to keep calling us for repairs. Join the list of satisfied Connecticut customers who purchased their non-electric water systems years ago and are still enjoying clean, conditioned water without any hassles from timers or circuit boards.
American Water Tech, a passion for improving lives through better water.
The man responsible for Saturday's deadly shooting spree in West Texas called 911 and the FBI just before going on the rampage.
So Saturday morning, our suspect went to work at Journey Oilfield Service. He was there for a short time and was terminated by his employer.
Odessa Police Chief Michael Gerke says the suspect's trouble at work may have been a factor. The gunman killed 7 and injured 22. Santa Cruz Beach is not immune from California's homeless epidemic. More than half of the homeless population in Santa Cruz County live in the city. Now vagrants are camping out on the beach.
Among all these families, umbrellas, and pop-ups, lifeguards pointed out several tents belonging to homeless people that have been camped here for several days. Despite the signs that say no camping, lifeguards say between 10 and 20 tents have popped up in the last few weeks, bookending Main Beach with homeless people living inside.
Maureen Naylor with Fox 2. A whale-watching group off the coast of Massachusetts ends up feasting their eyes on something else.
An unexpected hungry guest stole the show for whale watchers off Duxbury Beach.
Oh my God.
A great white shark stunning onlookers as it dined on the carcass of a dead whale in Cape Cod Bay. The carcass caught the attention of other sharks, prompting Duxbury police to close the beach for swimming. Grant Sachecki tweeted video of the great white enjoying its lunch.
That thing took off some chunks. Yeah, it's hungry, all right.
The Boston Globe reports several Cape Cod beaches were temporarily closed for swimming Sunday after nearly a dozen confirmed sightings of sharks. Steve Rappaport, Fox News.
And a Catholic school in Tennessee removes the Harry Potter books from its library after the school's priest decides they could cause a reader to conjure evil spirits. The Tennessean reports that directive coming at Nashville's St. Edward Catholic School. I'm Carmen Robertson. This is Fox News.
Whether you're going grocery shopping, taking the kids to the mall, or going to work, you need a reliable car that can take you where you need to go. A reliable car also needs reliable insurance. Let Nanbo Insurance make your auto insurance easy and uncomplicated. With Nanbo, you can also save big when you bundle up and insure your car, home, motorcycle, or business. Enjoy great savings up to 50%. Visit nanbo.com or call 477-9754 for more details.
GRMC's Neuroscience and Neurology Department treats a wide spectrum of disorders associated with the nervous system, spine, and brain. Some of the more common disorders include seizures, epilepsy, dementia, sleep disorders, migraine, and stroke, which is one of the leading causes of death on Guam. GRMC's neuroscience team is equipped with the latest technology and the finest neurological doctors. To make an appointment, contact GRMC Specialty Clinics at 645-5500.
Welcome back to Tall Tales for this beautiful Tuesday afternoon, the day after Labor Day. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back in 34 days. I'm keeping count. He's keeping count. And we'll be bringing him back in here as soon as he's ready. And that should be 34 days. So it'll be just a month from now, a month and a weekend. How's that? Before the break, we were taking a look at Helen Middlebrook's column, That's Life, that appeared in yesterday's Guam Daily Post, entitled Fixing Guam Takes Individual Responsibility. And I just got to the part where, well, let me just go ahead and I'll recap a little bit of what I already gave you before the top of the hour, and then it's like the last third of the article. I think the state of the island is most deeply rooted in the state of our families. Although we like to portray our families as strong and foundational, many are hurting. The foundations are crumbling. And if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? The solution will not be found in more government involvement. The solution lies in the heart and minds of individuals. We can turn Guam around, likely faster than we think, but only if we each take responsibility for our lives and our actions. As I've told my kids, no one owes you anything. You are responsible for you. If we fix ourselves, we'll be able to fix our families, and then we'll be on our way to fixing the island. But we need to want to. And that, I'm afraid, is the biggest problem of all. We know there are worthwhile concerns to be held and to act on. But how many people are acting? How many of us are willing to do, not just listen to the problem and, understand a problem, but to do something about the problem? And each of us has a voice. We have the ability to influence others who do directly have the responsibility to implement solutions. That's why we have elected representatives. That's what they're supposed to be doing. And that's why we elect a governor who has the power to appoint new directors, and those directors assist in carrying out the directions of the elected governor. In fact, the official name for the function at Adelup is executive direction. And we don't elect a governor to do the same thing the last governor did. Because whoever the last governor was didn't get to everything. And when they are campaigning for our votes, they tell us, I'm going to address this, this, and this. And with that assurance, we place our confidence in them. And that is something that we do. We go to the polls and we vote and we say, okay, we give you our confidence that you're going to take care of this, as you said. And when they don't, it is still our responsibility to go back and remind them. Yes, we'll vote in another, year and a half or 3.5 years. But do we have to wait that long? Do we have to squander time? Should we just be turning our community around? It's our community. It doesn't belong to them. It belongs to us. And we're supposed to be doing, those of us who are aware and able to do something about it should be doing something about it. So thank you, Helen Middlebrook, for your column and for your thoughts. Here's one, which was a Pacific Daily News column editorial from Saturday, the 31st of August. Let's see if we can give well, it's USA Today editorial board, but it's an interesting topic. It's called Corporate Liability, Protect Capitalism from Capitalists. The Business Roundtable, an association of senior corporate executives, is worried about growing populist and anti-business sentiments. Last week, it released a statement saying that corporations need to focus on broad societal issues that go beyond shareholder returns. Some of these include treating employees better and supporting the communities in which companies operate. It's not hard to see why the Roundtable would do this. 4 in 10 Americans now embrace some form of socialism. Many back a president who bashes free trade, politicizes monetary policy, and rewards or punishes businesses based on their political fealty. The Roundtable should be commended for realizing that it can't take support for capitalism for granted. It has more work to do, however, starting with an acknowledgement that Senator Bernie Sanders, independent of Vermont, and President Donald Trump aren't the biggest threats to capitalism. Capitalists are. To be sure, capitalism, or free enterprise, as it is more generously called, has been very good to America and the world. In the past century, it has created educated middle classes and lifted billions of people out of poverty. Its track record is far superior to that of communism or socialism. But capitalism, particularly unfettered capitalism, has a dark side. When Americans look at U.S. business in 2019, they don't see rising wages. They see income inequality. They see CEOs who rationalize their 7-figure salaries by slashing jobs. Banks and brokerages that routinely sell out their customers, blue chip companies that promote dangerously addictive opioids, fossil fuel interests that endanger the planet, and a cruel confiscatory health care system that charges an average $19,865 for a family insurance policy, but still expects people to spend an average of $3,020 per year out of pocket. Yes, there are problems with capitalism, ones that can't be solved with vague policy statements. One concrete step is to align executive compensation with long-term success, rather than maximization of the next quarter's profits. CEOs of late have been paid fortunes by boosting bottom lines through the elimination of jobs, either through automation or outsourcing. This leaves the distasteful appearance that they are profiting from other people's misery. Now, bring this up because it is an occasional topic here on Tall Tales, and in discussions on talk radio generally about socialist ideas being proposed by the Democratic candidates and people who want to push back politically in defense of the free market and the role of capital and the role of risk takers in the market, whether it's small business or large businesses. Here on Guam, we have the tourism industry. And we also have the 3,000 or so unlisted bed and breakfast places, or 300 unlisted bed and breakfast places, right? That are competing with the brick and mortar hotels. And these are all private sector. And it affects us, every single one of us. I got a caller on line 1. Let's see what's shaking over on line 1. Welcome to Tall Tales. You're on the air.
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. Welcome back after a 3-day weekend.
That's right. Anyway, who was it that was saying that we need to protect capitalism from Donald Trump?
No, it's protect capitalism from itself.
Okay, but I thought I heard you said to protect capitalism from Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump.
No, it said that Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump aren't the biggest threats to capitalism. Capitalists are. They are not. No, it is the capitalists themselves by profit taking. They're taking profits. Their companies are growing by cutting costs with jobs. Now, it is understandable that there's going to be changes in the way that we produce things and in the kinds of jobs that are available in a market because of technology, because of improvements in technology. There's going to be changes in even tastes, people's tastes. There are going to be corporate strategies that kind of fall on their face. There's going to be a number of reasons why companies will thrive or not. But the workers themselves, when they see glowing headlines about how well the stock market is doing and the banks are doing and how well everybody's doing, but it doesn't hit home. It doesn't seem to be in your community. At the grassroots level, you don't see wages rising, you don't see improvements in everyday life, which is not the same as the experience back 50, 60 years ago. When you saw prosperity, you saw people underneath becoming more prosperous as well. And so that is when you start getting the proposals for higher taxation, more government programs, the solutions that are being proposed, solutions that are out there to pull more money out of the business sector to pay for things that are going to make people underneath feel better about themselves while the rest of the country is galloping towards prosperity. And this is where the Business Roundtable is saying, we got to watch out here because we may lose the benefit of the doubt when it comes to explaining why business is prosperous today. And so we have to be careful and we have to start giving a bit ourselves for the workers, into social programs directly, and not wait for the government to simply pass a law taking more by taxes, reversing some of the tax breaks that have come out over the last 10, 20 years. By the government can reverse those tax breaks and to start paying for social programs to make everybody, that's not making it feel better about themselves. And it's a killer as far as the economy is concerned, but it's the business sectors have to show that their prosperity is shared with the employees in their communities, or else you're going to get political backlash. You're going to get candidates who are elected, who are going to be elected on a platform of going after big business and successful business to pull some of that money out of there to pay for the dislocation of workers. And that's the socialism side. It's happened before. The government can adjust. It can adjust this. But in the last 15, 20 years, it's been handing out big tax breaks. It's been cutting taxes. And when it cuts taxes, it puts more money into businessmen's hands, and there have been huge businesses growing. The tech industry, the Google, Amazon, the big companies have grown and also some have shrunk, or they have prospered, and the jobs are actually overseas. So
but
all
you
these.
Got to agree on one thing, though, that if they continue to decrease the amount of income tax that's been taken out of people's paycheck, that means they'll have more to take home, more take-home money that they can spend to feed their children, to put clothes on the backs of their children, right? I'm talking about individual taxes now. You still there?
Yeah, I am. I'm just. I'm not quite sure. I'm going to. I can agree that if you tax less, but this is not. I'm not talking about the taxes for the everyday person. I'm talking about the taxes of the people who are making $100,000 and more, $250,000 and more. Back at the time when we were having, just unparalleled success and expansion of American industry and production. The upper earners were being taxed at 70%, and they still excelled. Now they're complaining because it's only like 23%, something like that. And they're complaining about it bitterly and getting tax breaks. And then what do we find that they're doing with it? They're buying stock. They're buying derivatives. And they're buying back risky stuff and taking up some of their debt. But it keeps there's a lot of activity that's passing for economic activity that doesn't filter down to the working people who each have a vote.
Yeah, you are correct that those people with 6 or 7 figure annual incomes should not have any tax cuts, right? But maybe the people those 6-figure or 7-figure people that are complaining, maybe they are the ones that were saying, wait a minute, I work hard to get to where I am now, so why should I continue to be taxed more and more when that individual down there, Joe Blow, is too lazy to go to work? He could have been like me with a 6-figure income if only he'll get off his butt and work hard like I did.
I thought
so maybe that's the reason for them complaining. Why should they be carrying all this burden of putting more revenues into the government's treasury when they work hard to get to where they're at, like I'm saying? And because I don't want to be helping everybody. I don't want to be helping Joe Blow, who is too lazy. He's able to work, but he don't want to go out there and work because he can make more money by selling drugs, for example.
We're not talking about the people who are not working. We're talking about the people who are working, who are earning, but even though they have a job, or there's 2 wage earners, or even 2 wage earners and one of them has 2 jobs, just to get their family of 4 above the poverty line. Those are the people I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the people who are generation after generation after generation on welfare. I'm not talking about them. You know, and that is a specific problem that needs to be dealt with by the people who have been educated and have been studying this problem. You know, it may be, and you remember some years back there was a question of having national service. Instead of taking the people from DOC out and picking up the grass that the contractor cut and left to fly into the grates, the drainage grates. You know, let's have other people who are able-bodied. They're supposed to be looking for work, but if they didn't find a job, then they will just report to the mayor's office, or they'll report to some office where they're going to be taken out in a work crew to do work. But then, if you have an exemption, like for medical, and you can't, then there's a discrimination, and they have to think this stuff through so that things can get done, and we already have public education, we already have GED programs, we already have apprenticeship programs, we already have various educational programs to raise productivity.
You know why we have so much prosperity decades ago? We almost have no poverty. About 40 or 50 years ago, we don't even know the word. We don't even know the definition of the word poverty, because we were prospering. This country was prospering so much 40 or 50 years ago, and the reason for that is industries are in America, but nowadays almost every industry is moving over to China or somewhere else where the labor is so dirt cheap, because and that's the only way that they can survive is to find the cheap labor. And it's America's fault for that, because ever since every company that is operating in the mainland U.S., for example, they have to have unions, and the unions are so strong that that's what makes the salary of those individuals so high. Like right now, HVAC employee here on Guam can probably only make maybe $18 or $20 an hour, and if that same individual moves over to California, for example, that HVAC worker can get as much as $30 an hour minimum, because they're unionized.
Well, yeah, but you see,
so that's what's forcing the industries to move overseas so they can get cheap labor.
Well, you know,
that's basically what's killing us is that the industries are moving to the state, to China, for example, and then they have to ship over the same product they made overseas to sell it to us at a higher price.
No, they're selling it to us at a cheaper price, or else we wouldn't be buying them. We wouldn't be able to afford them.
Yeah, it becomes cheaper because they can afford to knock the price down because of the fact that the labor is cheap over there.
That's right.
But I mean, if there's no work for the workers here, what good is having a cheap product to buy if that worker doesn't have any money to buy that cheap product?
Let me see if I can kind of turn this whole discussion on its side, okay? Because if we did not export jobs to countries, and if we didn't have trade relations with these countries, and you're specifically talking about Japan, Germany, China, those countries would not be prosperous, and they would have problems keeping a capitalist society going if they couldn't use their advantage, their what's called comparative advantage, to produce goods that can be sold, whether sold in their own markets or sold in the U.S. market. And by having these trade relations, it's cheaper than fighting another war. Because that's what we went through in the early 1900s. We went through war after war because countries were holding their wealth for themselves, and they were jealously guarding access to raw materials. And so they were going out and colonizing areas and pulling the raw materials out and using those areas as markets for their goods, and allowing companies within their economies to make money. But it costs the nations, each of those nations and our nation, billions and billions of dollars to fight wars because they were, the Japanese wanted continued access to rubber and tin and oil and steel because we weren't selling any more to them, and we cut it off from French Indochina after Germany took over France. The U.S. said Japan cannot have any more of the Indochina rubber and tin. From the Dutch that were overrun by Germany, you can't have any more oil or rubber or tin from Indonesia, and they went to war. They said, "Okay, you're gonna close us off. We're gonna attack you." And they were already in war in China, and the major countries of the world had already carved up China for areas where they would, go in and compete with the Chinese, but using the soldiers to protect their companies. So we don't want to go back to that. We want to go forward, and this was forward, but we have not adjusted fast enough to keep up with the rest of the world. We're really kind of behind on the times, and where we should have been ahead of the curve instead of comfortable behind. And the only way to go forward is forward. Well, it's 5:31 and time to take a break here. You want to hang on, Tom?
Yeah, hang on.
Okay. Real Joe, let's take this 7th inning stretch, and we'll be right back with more Tall Tales.
Hey, do you know what time the bank closes? I need to deposit my check.
You know you can do that from your phone.
I can?
With Bank of Guam's mobile app, it's easy. Just endorse the back and snap a pic to deposit it into your account. You can do this from anywhere, anytime, which means no rushing to catch the bank and no lines.
With Bank of Guam's mobile app and online banking, we're always open. Visit bankofguam.com for more information. Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. Member FDIC.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Have you ever heard of confirmation bias? What if I said you are affected by it? What if I said you are afflicted with it? I'm Jerry Roberts, and at 7:20 a.m. on The Ray Gibson Show, we'll dig into confirmation bias and see what it's all about.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Try Mezcla's featured special for September. Southern spiced crispy fried chicken. Louisiana-inspired fried half chicken served with red beans and rice. Available in Agana and in Tumon at the Grand Plaza Hotel. For reservations, please call 969-2652.
Back with Tall Tales for the last half hour here as we head up towards 6 o'clock, and I hope that you are, if you are in your car, enjoying the ride home or to the stores, ready to spend your hard-earned money on groceries or to go to the movies or buy shoes for the kids or whatever it is you have, happy hour. Thank you very much for tuning in and enjoying the discussion here on Tall Tales. Tom and I have been talking about the editorial, and that's got us started on the capitalists need to dial back. The Business Roundtable, it's an association of top-level senior executives in business throughout the United States, is giving this warning that the worst thing for capitalism in the U.S. are the capitalists themselves, that they have got to stop with their demands because the political pendulum may swing against them, and they may see some reversals of public policy that has been benefiting them over the recent decades. You know, Tom, when we're talking about prosperity in the States, but actually let's bring it home. You know, you mentioned about unions, and we do have on Guam, we do have some occupations that are represented by the Guam Federation of Teachers, and even the idea of having unions is a socialist improvement that was only instituted because the capitalists would not raise wages or improve working conditions. If they had safer workplaces, we wouldn't need an OSHA. If they had wages that would rise to keep pace with not only the cost of living, but also the productivity, as measured by the profits that the companies themselves are making. If they were sharing more of the profits with their workers that were doing the work in steel working and other places, they wouldn't bother going to the unions. Coal industry. Why would you unionize if you were being treated fairly? But they had become, coal workers had become something like indentured servants, because the coal towns were notorious for having one store, and the store owned by the coal company, and they would give you credit, and they would set the prices of the goods in the store, so everything you earned was owed back to the company store, and the companies were making huge profits.
Well, sometimes if the employees, though, you know, if they tell the union that we're only getting $15 an hour, we demand to get paid higher. So they're going to get together with the union. They're going to say, okay, let's force management to give you a higher price, and the way we can do this is let's strike. Let's have a strike. That way we'll force management to increase your hourly rate. So that's one way that the union really is creating problems here in the U.S., where the salaries are so high. So that's what it was industries to move overseas for cheaper labor.
Yes, but it's a problem of the company's own making, because they're not communicating with their workers and raising wages as profits increase. It's called profit. It's like the companies are making more profit, and so the people who are investing in the industry and the ones who are the managers of the industry are rewarded by having more capital to go out and buy more businesses or to expand. They're buying more machine tools and they're modernizing. This is necessary, but when they go into they want to acquire other businesses, or they want to expand their however they want to expand. You know, this money is the surplus over what the company is spending versus what they're able to charge for by prices and to sell in the market.
Our situation right now in our country is so sad that almost everything that you buy at Home Depot is made in China. Even the military exchanges now. I am buying products that are made in China at the Navy Exchange, for example. Just 2 months ago, I bought a blood pressure reader, and I read the label saying made in China.
Okay, but let me ask you. If, you know, some years back, 20, 30 years ago, we had a Buy America effort to save American jobs. Even something like towels, you know, the cotton towel makers in North Carolina, you know, the Cannon towels. And they were saying, please buy our towels because you're keeping Americans on the job. And what happened? As soon as there was a 5% price difference with the towels coming out of India or someplace, they bought the imported towels because it was cheaper to buy the imported towels, even though the cotton was produced in the U.S., shipped over there, and then spun and, you know, woven and then sent back. Even if they were inferior quality, Americans were going for the price. They were not going for the Buy America tag. And then what happened when we just loved our the televisions and CD players and flat screen TVs and all this electronics that had been the original technology developed in the United States, sent over to places like Japan, where they did some of their own improvements, like Sony, producing their own patents, and then they both went to places like China. As soon as China opened up to, they went to Taiwan, and then they went from even to the mainland of China to support the mass production, and the prices fell by 60%, 70%, 80% from what was being charged before. And we were flooding our stores with Chinese-made goods. And that was keeping everyone in the U.S. from demanding higher wages, because actually the price of goods was falling. And you can go back and you can take a look at that history, that the reason we didn't notice flat wages for 30 years was because we were able to buy toys cheaper, and the things that durable goods and housing was going up, but the toys were cheaper. And even though we had less manufacturing jobs and more service jobs, and less highly paid or union scale jobs in industry, and more at-will labor and part-time labor. Even though that shift was going on, nobody cared, because you could still go down and buy the latest TV or the latest CD player and whatnot, the tools, the toys. You could buy them cheap, and so you felt good about it all. Even cars got cheaper. And then what happened? Only later on they realized, the big box stores are full of imported goods, and no longer are they made even anywhere in the country. You can't even with the internet, you can't even find local producers of something as simple as a bicycle. You got to get it from outside. Anyone inside the country who's going to make it is going to be hand welding it. And then the price is going to be, actually the prices are high. But for the bicycles are $1,500, $3,000. But the quality is comparable if you import one, or better if you import, because it's still cheaper and still mass produced in these other places. There was an article, Tom, on yesterday. The editorial in the Guam Daily Post was "Thank You, Guam Workers," and they point this out about how many people were working on Labor Day on Guam. The hotel industry, the tourism industry did not shut down because of Labor Day. The government of Guam shut down, banks were closed, but stores were open, buses were rolling, people were checking in and out of hotels, they had to be fed, and places of entertainment were open, the malls were open. People were working on what's supposed to be a national holiday that celebrates the dignity of labor. And
it's sad because it is the visitor industry, the hospitality industry is the one that's bringing the money from the outside into the island.
Right, and they say that they cannot.
There's money that's paying this government of Guam employees.
Well, let's just stick to the industry. Let's just stick to the industry, because we've seen where 25, 30 years ago that the return on a hotel, to build a hotel and to equip it, put the beds in it and operate it, that the hotel would return its investment in 7 years, not like 20 years. So Guam was a hot place for investment. And as the Japan economy contracted because of its bubble economy, the the Japanese investors pulled out and let other investors in. And they were looking for those short horizon returns of their money. And now what do we have is one company owns like 60% of the hotels on Guam, and we have the home-based accommodation where you could, like Airbnb type accommodation. So online, and they're not even, we don't even know who they are. They don't even have to pay taxes until they're discovered. So there's a lot of changes, but there's people who are going to work every day in those industries, and they can't ask for higher wages because the companies are saying, you know, it's not the same as before. We're not getting the kind of return that we used to get, and so we can't afford to pay you more. No, but they can't afford to pay more to people who are making beds or chopping vegetables or vacuuming or landscaping. So in this article yesterday, it said that the U.S. Labor Department's wage numbers for May 2018, the latest available for this data on Guam, show the disparity between the mean hourly wages on Guam and the nation's. Management jobs, 43% difference when compared to the national average, 43% below national average. So if you are a competent management level worker, you can get over a 50% raise by going to the States and working in your field. Business and financial operations jobs, 30% lower than the national average. Computer and mathematical jobs, 44% below national average. Architecture and engineering jobs, 31% below national average. These are the prices paid to workers on Guam by average. Life, physical, and social science jobs, 27% below. Community and social service jobs, only 6% less. Legal jobs, a third below.
The only thing going good for us workers here in Guam I'm talking about, is we do not have to commute far to go to work and to go home after work. And although the price of our gasoline is so high per gallon, we don't spend that much gas to go to work. Not like in the mainland where you have to travel one way 40 or 50 miles just to get to work, and then another 50 miles to go back home after work.
No, you're right.
Put out with the traffic jam, and they're idling their cars in the freeways in the traffic jam. So they're really, the price of our gallon is so high here, and the price per gallon over there is so low, but it kind of equates itself out because we travel less here to go to work than it is over there. So
I'm going to toss one more thing in there, okay? I'm going to toss one more. Even with the higher wages over there, you pay your federal taxes, and then you pay your state taxes, and then you pay, and you pay the liquid fuels tax that's in the gallon of gas that you buy to maintain the roads, and you pay sales tax every time you go to Marshall's or the supermarket or anywhere you go, you're going to be paying sales tax. And so those taxes pay for the public services that are provided, the law enforcement, the highway maintenance, the inspections for physical facilities that are being constructed so your building doesn't fall down in the next earthquake. You got fire departments. You've got these guys, and then you have, of course, defense. Paying for the national military, paying for so the only thing we pay here into the national is Social Security. And if you're not paying Social Security, you're paying into a Gov Guam retirement, or I think you still, even if you pay a 401k, you still have to, retirement fund. If you're not part of a government pension plan, then you are paying Social Security, and so that's money going in. But imagine that we don't have those taxes, and that's one of the things that they don't put here on the comparison of one to the other. Now, you know that we've gone through all but 10 minutes of today's show. We have not even talked about the National Wildlife Refuge closing on Monday and Tuesday. We haven't talked about the budget bill. We haven't talked about the land trust violations. We haven't talked about the allegations against the delegate. And we haven't talked about the march.
I'll let other people chime in, buddy.
No, but But, this is, we've had a full day of just talking about roads and wages. Thank you very much, Tom, for your call.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Let's take another break here, Real Joe, and we'll come back with more tall tales after this.
Live the balanced lifestyle. Take Care Insurance offers proven wellness and fitness programs to encourage individuals and families to live a healthy, balanced lifestyle through preventative care, being active, eating right, relaxing and unwinding, and being socially connected. They have the island's largest offering of free fitness classes and health education programs for all ages. Join the movement. Follow them on Facebook and Instagram or visit takecareasia.com to learn more.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
And to take us up to the top of the hour, the next 7 or so minutes, I want to just get into this one of these latest stories. Not going to talk about the march. I'm going to talk about the delegate's former aide details allegations. And that was the headline in yesterday's Guam Daily Post on page 1. And I'm not going to go over it and rehash the charges, okay? Mike Nicholas and John Paul Manuel are at each other's, throats. And this is a good time to sit back and kind of open this up a little bit. The story is really about whether staff have an obligation to not reveal immoral, unethical, or illegal activity by their superiors. They are witnesses, but should they initiate the publicity? Which transgressions violate law or regulation on behavior in the performance of their duties or while spending public funds? Those are the only concerns we should have. If it has to do with violating the terms of a marital contract, that's between them, and it has nothing to do with you or me, you might want to point to it next time he's campaigning, but you don't need to get into it now. And it need not concern us now. True or not, I don't even want to hear any more about it. But, what about, President Trump using private contracts to compel non-disclosure by public employees, government workers, signing the same kind of a non-disclosure agreement that he requires of his private company employees. We're talking about loyalty to person versus loyalty to the rule of law. So I'm just trying to give you kind of a framework on what are we supposed to make of this? Where does loyalty override the public interest, including compliance with all applicable laws, regulations, and ethical standards? Established ethical standards for behavior of public officials while in a public office, in a public space, doing public work with public funds. Should politicians get a pass? Should we say, that's kind of boys will be boys, you know? How about private business owners? Do they get a pass? Because the same thing goes for people who work closely with anyone else. Who is supposed to tell all? Now, I've worked in public offices before, but I'll tell you what, just by knowing how I am, I don't see anything because they won't do it in front of me. If they do it, they don't do it in front of me because I really don't, I know where the line is. And I may not be the one to initiate it, but I might walk away. Appointed public office holders, you know, the directors, you know, they're not elected, but what kind of standard do we hold them to? And the people working most closely to them, should they initiate if they see wrongdoing? And didn't we just talk about this a couple of months ago? Maybe back in February when I was sitting here for Bob Klitzkie before, back in February. We talked about one of these. There was another example of this going on. And of course, the Chamorro Land Trust, you know, dealing, you know, swapping out places in line and signing lease agreements with relatives, you know. Have we accepted this as normal? That people would take advantage of being in public office to not only use public resources, but including using the staff to do things that are clearly not permitted in the black and white. Now, I'm not so concerned about these allegations until they are investigated by competent authority. So as far as the delegate is concerned, if it's something that happened while he was already in federal office, then the Congress would investigate. Congress does have an investigative arm, and they do, and that there's an ethics manual. If it happened under while the delegate was a senator, will the Attorney General initiate an investigation? Guam Police? Who knows? You know, this is if it's not going to be investigated for potential wrongdoing using public funds, and not just you know, oh, you know what he was doing over here. What's he doing hiding out over there when he should have been working on something over there? Well, that should have been brought up during the campaign and not talking about it now. If he was just, you know, playing politics. But if he was out spending government money, vouching for the proper use of public money, you know, these, just because it came out in the paper, just because of that, it's already been referred for investigation at the federal level, because they don't play around, and neither should we. I mean, our own local law enforcement officials, whether those are officials at the Election Commission or they're officials at the Attorney General's office, there should be someone looking into these allegations and weighing them if they're serious enough to go forward with them. Because it has to do with public trust. Do we trust our officials? And it shouldn't be a headline and then just sort of explained away. Now, how's that for 2 hours? I'll be back again tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And thank you very much for joining me today. Do hope you've enjoyed the show. I'm Darrell Taggarty, sitting in for Bob Klitzkie. He'll be back in how many days? 34 days. See, already in almost a month away. He'll be back on October 7th. I'll be back at 4 tomorrow. Ray Gibson will be in this chair after having gotten some well-deserved sleep. At 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, tune in for his show. And until then, everyone have a very, very pleasant evening.